there, this is Dr. May, and in this video, we're going to be taking a look at solving equations with variables on both sides. Now, if you have not seen my two-step, multi-step equation videos, definitely check those out. I'll be sure and put them in the description because they are going to be a foundation for what we're going to be doing here. But let's get started. I like to draw an imaginary line at the equal sign. It helps me to see both sides of the equation. And you'll notice that I have variables on both sides of this imaginary line. Our first goal has to be to get all those variables on one side. I particularly like them to come on the left, so I'm going to be moving the 2k. You may ask, how are you going to move the 2k? Well, I see the 2k as being added, so I'm going to do the opposite of that. The opposite of adding 2k is to subtract 2k. And I hope you notice I did it to both sides of the equal sign, and I lined it up underneath the k terms. That's important because we have like terms when we combine them. So 6k minus 2k is 4k. And then this minus 3 doesn't have anything to combine with, so it just comes down in the problem. Then we have our equal sign. 2k minus 2k gives us 0, so we'll just mark those out, plus 13. Now, the reason I ask you to make sure you've seen my two-step equation video is because we have a two-step equation now. How do I know? Well, there's two things happening to the variable. It's being multiplied by 4. It's being subtracted by 3. So we're going to undo the subtracting by 3 by doing the opposite of subtracting 3. The opposite of subtracting 3 is to add 3 to both sides. Notice I did it to both sides of the equation. So I have this 4k that doesn't have anything to combine with. Minus 3 plus 3 cancel. And that's equal to 13 plus 3, which is 16. Now we have a one-step equation because there's one thing happening to the variable. So we're going to do the opposite of multiplying by 4, which is to divide by 4. Multiplying by 4, dividing by 4 cancel each other out, and I'm left with k equals 4. So remember, to recap here, the first thing is we get all the variables on one side. Once we have a two-step equation, then we start doing the opposite to both sides of the equation. Let's take a look at my next problem here. Very similar. We're going to draw that imaginary line. I see the two variables on both sides. So I need to do the opposite of adding 3m. See, notice that the minus is with the 5. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 3m, which is to subtract 3m. I'm lining it up underneath the m terms so that I can collect like terms. 9m minus 3m gives me 6m, plus 7 comes down, equals, notice my 3m minus 3m, those cancel, and I have negative 5 now. Don't lose that negative on the 5, okay? Notice now I have a two-step equation. What's happening to the variable? It's being multiplied by 6, being added by 7. So we're going to do the opposite of adding 7, which is to subtract 7. That leaves me with 6m. Notice the plus 7 minus 7 go away. And negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. If you say, Dr. May, I have trouble with negatives, definitely check out that Desmos graphing calculator in the description. It's free. I'll be sure to put the link there. Now let's undo the multiplying by 6. We'll divide by 6 on both sides. Multiplying by 6, dividing by 6 cancel out, giving me m equals, and then negative 12 divided by 6 is negative 2. All right. Now, what I like to do in my videos is I like to start out with basic concept, and then we get a little bit more difficult. And so some of you may have looked down there and like, oh my, she's whipping out the fractions. I am, because we don't want to be afraid of them. We want to be able to work with them. So let's do something that I don't normally do, but I think it's going to help you feel better about fractions, okay? I want you to look at this equation and you see the fractions, and I want you to ask yourself, okay, if I were going to make a common denominator, which by the way, I'm not, but if I were going to, what would that common denominator be? You're right. It's 5. The common denominator here would be 5. Now, don't worry. I'm not going to begin to make common denominators for this, okay? But I need to use that common denominator to help. So what I'm going to do is I'm just rewriting the problem so I have a little bit more space. And what I want to do is I'm going to go through here and I'm going to multiply each term by 5, that common denominator. I'm writing them in a different color so you can see them. Okay. Now the fraction ones, I'll probably just make that a 5/1. So make it a little easier to do. Multiply the fractions. Now let's see what I get when I multiply. How do we multiply fractions? Top times top, bottom times bottom. 5 times 2 is 10. 1 times 5, 5. Don't forget the n. Minus, this part should be easy. 5 times 9, 45. 5 times 7, 35. And then over here we've got 5 times 3, 15. 1 times 5, 5. Now, here comes the beautiful part, okay? 10 divided by 5 is 2. Minus 45 equals 35. Minus 15 divided by 5 is 3. Notice no fractions anymore. It's the whole reason I did that, okay? And you can use that one. As long as you can identify the common denominator, you can multiply by it to get rid of all the fractions. Okay, now that we did that, let's get all the variables on one side. Here's my 2 variables. I like them to come to the left, so I'm going to do the opposite of subtracting 3n. I'm going to add 3n to both sides. Notice that I line it up under the other n term. 2n plus 3n is 5n minus 45 equals 35. And then notice minus 3n plus 3n go away. What do we have now? 2-step equation. Yep, let's start doing the opposites. So we'll do the opposite of subtracting 45. That's adding 45. So I've got 5n equals minus 45 plus 45 go away. 35 plus 45 gives me 80. How are you hanging in there? We got one more step, right? So we're going to do the opposite of opposite of multiplying by 5, which is to divide by 5. Those two cancel out, giving me n equals 16. Now, if I'm moving fast, okay, hit that pause button. Definitely hit it so that you can get each step that I'm talking about so that you'll feel like you are on top of it. That's the beauty of having the video, is that you can, constantly hit that pause button and then take a look at, more and more examples. Okay. All right. Let's look at number 4 then here. Now on number 4, I got a little rewrite I want to do first. Okay. Now on the rewrite, you notice how on the left here I have 8 minus 2p. Well, I like my variable to come first. So in order to rewrite that, I've got to write it negative 2p plus 8. See, I had to, if the minus was with the 2p, I had to keep the negative right there. Okay. Now I'm ready to get, I got 2 variables on each side, a variable on each side. So I need to move the 4p to the left. So to do that, I'm going to subtract the 4p. All right. So let's see what we have. Negative 2p plus negative 4p gives me negative 6p plus 8. Notice my 4p minus 4p go away. Don't lose the negative on the 10. Now we have our 2-step equation. We'll start doing the opposite of adding 8, which is to subtract 8. I've got negative 6p plus 8 minus 8 cancel equals negative 10 plus negative 8, which is negative 18. And then we'll do the opposite of that, which is negative 6, divide by negative 6, and so p equals positive 3. Okay, now remember, the goal was to get all the variables on one side first, then we start doing the opposite on both sides to solve those two-step equations. Now, I'm going to do a part 2 of this video with a little bit more complicated examples, so I will be sure and put the link for you so you can check that out.